Residents of Prince Andrew Avenue want their street name changed after its namesake was stripped of his royal titles. Paul Dowsley.
It begins with a single street sign, a name printed in metal, bolted to a wall, unnoticed by most who walk past it every day. But tonight, that street sign has become a symbol of rebellion, a spark, a quiet uprising brewing in the towns and neighborhoods where people have finally had enough of carrying the weight of someone else's scandal. And that someone is Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. Because across the UK, from Northern Ireland to Berkshire, from Carrickfergus to Maidenhead, residents are rising up and demanding one thing: remove his name from their streets. Erase it, replace it, move on. This is no longer just about a road name. This is about a reckoning, a moment where ordinary citizens are declaring that they refuse to let their homes, their identities, and their communities be tied to a man whose scandals have cast a shadow over an entire nation. Before we dive in, there's something I need to share with you. Over the past few days, thousands have watched these stories unfold, but most haven't subscribed. If you're one of them, I invite you now to join us. Subscribe to Crownverse so you never miss the next chapter in this unfolding royal history. Tonight, we explore the uprising that is reshaping how the monarchy's influence appears in everyday life. Because what began as a small set of complaints in one neighborhood has now become part of a nationwide conversation. At the center of it all is Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, once the Duke of York, once a celebrated prince, now stripped of his titles and plunged into the deepest scandal the modern monarchy has faced. Not because of one event, but because of years of associations, allegations, interviews, denials, withdrawals from public life, and the long-lasting stain of a scandal that refuses to fade. And the truth is simple. Communities no longer want their identity attached to his. In Maidenhead, residents on Prince Andrew Road and Prince Andrew Close say they're ashamed of the connection. Some describe a discomfort every time they order a package, every time they write their address, every time they welcome visitors. One resident openly said it's not a name that you want attributed to where you're living. Another worried about the inconvenience, the paperwork, the changing of deeds. But even she admitted the controversy has become impossible to ignore. And this isn't an isolated sentiment. Across other towns, similar conversations are happening. In Northern Ireland, the move to erase Prince Andrew Way began after public frustration reached what councillors described as fever pitch. People no longer want reminders of someone whose reputation has collapsed so dramatically that even the monarchy has stepped away. So how did we get here? How did a man once expected to carry the honor of the crown become the target of a grassroots refusal movement? It began slowly. A year of rumors, a decade of questions, that infamous interview, the legal settlement, the public withdrawal, the stripping of titles, and finally the king's decisive blow last month, removing Andrew's remaining style, honors, and privileges. From that moment, the public mood shifted. What was once quiet disapproval transformed into active rejection. The sentiment was clear. If the monarchy had cut him off, why should streets, schools, or public spaces carry his name? This led to Angle 1, the street name uprising. An uprising not of protests or marches, but of letters, petitions, community meetings, quiet resistance, rooted in shame, frustration, and the desire for a clean break. Councils, once hesitant to make changes because of outdated laws requiring unanimous support, now have new powers to act when there is sufficient local support. And that support is growing. What's happening is unprecedented. Never before in modern royal history has a senior royal's name been removed from public spaces because the public demanded it. But this is only half the story. Angle 2 reveals something deeper. a collapse unfolding behind palace walls that mirrors what's happening in the streets. Andrew is not only facing public rejection, he is facing total displacement from his home, a fractured relationship with the royal family, and what insiders describe as a feud between him and King Charles over his future. According to several reports and insiders, some of which remain unverified, Andrew is demanding a large and fully staffed property on the Sandringham estate, a 6 or 7 bedroom house with a cook, gardener, housekeeper, driver, and police security. He reportedly believes he has done exactly what was asked of him and simply wants to be treated fairly. But others in the palace see this differently. One former courtier described the situation bluntly. It was always going to be about money. Andrew is said to be negotiating every detail of his exit from Royal Lodge, a property once considered one of the most prestigious residences in the royal estate. This tension has pushed King Charles into an uncomfortable position. On one hand, he cannot allow his brother to live in a large royal property indefinitely when his public role has been dismantled. On the other hand, pushing Andrew too far risks triggering backlash or defiance. The king's focus is protecting the monarchy, even if that means isolating members of his own family. And so the battle continues. On one side, a disgraced prince trying to salvage what remains of his royal lifestyle, and on the other, a monarch trying to distance the institution from scandal once and for all. But what does this have to do with street names? Everything, because the public's rejection of Andrew's name mirrors the institution's rejection of his presence. It is symbolic, emotional, cultural, a sign of how dramatically his status has fallen. And it goes further. The street name movement also reflects the fear, the quiet fear, that the monarchy itself could suffer reputational damage if the shadows of Andrew's scandals remain present in daily life. For residents, a street name isn't just a label. It's a representation of identity, a marker of community. And when that name becomes synonymous with allegations, controversy, and disgrace, people feel weighed down by it. As councils discuss renaming streets, the symbolism becomes even clearer. The public is ready to move into a future where Andrew's legacy no longer touches their communities. But while towns prepare for transformation, Andrew's own world is shrinking. Royal Lodge, 30 rooms, decades of history, gardens stretching across Windsor Great Park will no longer be his safe haven. He must leave. He must surrender the life that once gave him proximity to royal power. And as he faces this forced departure, more blows keep coming. The street name uprising is not the only rejection he is facing. The monarchy has tightened its borders around him. His siblings maintain a formal distance. His daughters navigate the fallout with painful delicacy. And Sarah Ferguson, once his closest ally, is choosing independence, rejecting both Sandringham and her daughter Beatrice's offer of a home, according to multiple reports, although some details remain unverified. This raises another question. If the public is erasing Andrew, if the family is distancing themselves, if even Sarah is choosing her own path, then what is left for him? Tonight's story is not just about a street name. It is about a man whose identity once defined institutions, places, and public spaces, now watching those markers disappear one by one. It is about people reclaiming their environment from associations they reject. It is about power shifting from the royals to the residents. And it is about the monarchy facing a modern reality, where public sentiment can reshape even the smallest symbols of royal influence.
But beneath the public movement lies a deeper emotional truth. When communities say they no longer want Andrew's name on their streets, they are not simply pushing against scandal. They are pushing against silence. The years of unanswered questions, the evasive interviews, the lack of closure. The street name uprising is the voice of ordinary citizens saying, "We will not carry this burden for you." Whether councils move quickly, whether residents unanimously agree, whether the process takes weeks or months, one thing is certain: change is coming. And with every street sign removed, with every house deed updated, with every new name chosen, Andrew's influence fades a little more. But as communities move forward, Andrew is stuck negotiating for a future he no longer controls. And that is the final truth of this story. The monarchy is evolving, the public is speaking, and Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor is witnessing, perhaps for the first time in his life, what it means to lose not just privilege, but permanence. The street name uprising is only the beginning.